Hey guys, so anybody that knows me that's been watching this channel for a while probably already knows my story about how back in 2017 I went to the Philippines and Australia. We wrote this book here called the Bitcoin Multiplier Method. You can download this on the website Mitri.ninja, links down below. This basically says about how I turned $500 into $10,000. But in here also it does give you a little bit of a brief on my background. So I used to be in the British Army. When I left in 2008, I had gone on some courses with Rich Dad, Rob Kiyosaki, and learned all about real estate investing. So when I left the army in 2008, within 1 year, I was pretty much financially independent. I bought enough HMOs, houses of multiple occupancy, basically just renting out rooms in a house rather than renting the whole house. And I had just enough money from that to survive. And that's how I lived pretty much from 2008 through to 2017 when I got into Bitcoin. And until then, real estate was my best ever investment. Now that I've got into Bitcoin, it's very much different. I mean, Bitcoin has been destroying everything. It's been the best outperforming asset class out of everything that you could possibly have invested in. Bitcoin has outperformed everything. However, if you have seen this little sketch right here. Hi, I'm Ben. This is my wife Gigi, and we set out in 2017 on our journey to follow our passion and own our very first hotel. While away, that we've played in many of our videos, and I'm not going to bore you with that again. Basically, at the end of it, our whole plan is to buy hotels, buy more real estate. So if Bitcoin is so good, and I believe it's definitely going to go to $1 million within the next 5 years, not this bull cycle, but on the next bull cycle, it should hit $1 million. Why on earth do I want to buy real estate rather than Bitcoin? And real estate is an absolute headache. I'm going to take you now to one of our places. We've just been emptying it out because we want to get rid of that property so we can buy a hotel. Here is the state of it. Hi guys, welcome to the horror show, which is residential real estate. So this is a room which we've been renting now for the last 9 years. We've not been renting it, we've been renting it to a tenant. And this tenant, though he has paid the rent every single month, as you'd expect, apparently he never emptied a bin bag the whole time he was staying here, never used a Hoover, and never cleaned anything. And you can see in this room right here that he did absolutely nothing, even in his own bedroom. So up the window here, you can see it's absolutely disgusting. I don't even think he's opened the window in 9 years. You can see he's not really hoovered the floor, the cobwebs, the disgusting walls, the lampshade, the coving which is falling down, and of course this absolutely horrendous wall. The whole room is a disgrace. And obviously we'd never ever dream of actually renting somewhere in this state. Unfortunately, tenants have different levels of tolerance with disgustingness, and some are just more disgusting than others. And it's been my experience that when you're renting out rooms in HMOs, houses of multiple occupancy, that if you get a tenant that stays sort of 6 months to a year, generally you're going to have to redecorate when they leave because it's kind of not particularly great. However, honestly, I've had guys which have stayed maybe 3 or 4 years and they've left, and you could have just rented the room straight out because the place is spick and span, absolutely fantastic. Those guys are amazing. Unfortunately, they're not all like that. Some are like this. Now, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you're probably already aware that we're looking to be buying hotels rather than just holding Bitcoin long term. So the question is, which is better? Why am I buying hotels? Why not just stick with Bitcoin? Because if I had just held Bitcoin rather than buying property and trying to rent it out over the years, obviously I'd be like probably a billionaire by now, because Bitcoin's gone from like just a couple of cents all the way up to 50 grand. I mean, I'd be loaded, right? But the thing is over the last few years, like the 12 years that we've owned this property, owning Bitcoin instead would have not improved my life in any way, shape or form. It would have just sat in a hardware wallet and I'd have had to go to work, to pay taxes, to pay bills and all the rest of it. Whereas because I've owned property and I've been renting rooms, that's provided me the income that I've needed to pay for all of those things. So I've not had the added stress that I have to actually go out and work for somebody else to make money. So I've just had the property paying my bills, not been living like a king by any stretch of the imagination, definitely not. But with simple, frugal living, you know, it's been enough to pay the bills and get by. And that for me really is the biggest difference. So Bitcoin over time, obviously it keeps going up in value. Yes, it does drop back 80%, but you know, long term, it's definitely going up. And I don't think it's going to be too long, probably on the next pump. It should go like in another 4 years up to $1 million. So definitely for capital growth, Bitcoin is fantastic, but just holding Bitcoin doesn't improve your life in any way whatsoever. It just sits in a hardware wallet. The great news is there are no maintenance issues, okay? Boilers don't break down. You don't need to clean the gutters and all this type of stuff like you do with houses. And you don't have to deal with tenants either. So it's very low stress, very easy to just hold it in a hardware wallet and just wait for the appreciation over time, but doesn't really provide you with an awful lot to live on while you're waiting for the price to go up. Now, when you look at real estate actually doesn't go up in value over time at all. Now, people think that it does because they see that the dollar value or the pound value is rising over time. But if you offset inflation and also look at the price of gold and the price of housing, you'll see that gold and housing pretty much stay flat. So over the years, I did do some tests on this, run some charts, and found that, you know, just taking the sort of average house price every 10 years and looking at the price of 1 ounce of gold every 10 years, I found that the average house here in the UK can be bought for about 240 ounces of gold. And it's sort of every 10-year interval is pretty much the truth. So gold and houses actually very, very stable, don't go up all that much at all, but definitely better than holding cash. And of course, you've got tenants in those properties providing you an income. So real estate in a way is good. Here in the UK, they're changing a lot of laws. So they're taking away a lot of the tax incentives, plus also giving the tenants more and more rights all the time, because obviously there's a lot more tenants than there are landlords, and the politicians want to get elected, right? So they want to go with the biggest group, and as there's more tenants, then they want to sort of help the tenants as much as they can, because then those tenants are going to vote for them come the next election. So landlords have really been having a hard time here in the UK. And a lot of the people that I know which are tenants are going into Airbnb and trying to sort of coming out of the residential scene and just putting their properties up on Airbnb to sort of rent to holiday makers and all that type of stuff. And they're actually better off for it as well. Maybe not so much last year with COVID, but generally in the years prior, they've been doing very well. For me, I want to go into hotels. So it's like a sort of a step further, because, you know, I love 40 Towers. Ever seen Basil 40?
Okay, the others one, Basil 40.
Please, senor, Mr. 40 want to say adios.
He wants to...
No, no,
Gentlemen, and what can I do for you three gentlemen?
Yeah, that old show, always loved it, always fancied being a hotel owner. So yeah, I want to be buying a couple of hotels instead. So it's a bit like this, like HMOs, but you've got people out every few days, so you can get in and clean the place, and you don't have to ever deal with this situation that we've got right here. Wow, what a mess, eh? And the truth is, if we hadn't given that guy a letter of termination to asking him to leave, then he'd probably still be there to this day, living there quite happily in that mess. I know, it's crazy. But that's it in a nutshell. Real estate is a lot of hard work, and you know, you're constantly battling new regulation stuff coming out all the time, trying to find new tenants all the time, just constantly churning through new people, because people may only stay like, you know, 6 months or a year or something. And the appreciation on the property, people used to say, you know, property doubles in value every sort of 8 to 10 years or something. That's totally not true. I mean, this property has not changed hardly at all in the last 10 years, maybe up 10% if you're lucky. So much for doubling every 10 years. Whereas something like Bitcoin, It is no hassle, no stress. You just buy it, stick it in a hardware wallet. Doesn't give you any stress, any hassle whatsoever. There's no maintenance. It just sits there. The only problem is that it doesn't actually improve your quality of life. There's no cash flow coming from the Bitcoin. It just sits there in a wallet and over the years appreciating in value. So at some point you can actually realize that value if you sell it, but just by holding it alone, you don't really get any improvement on your life. And I know there are ways that you could basically hand it over as collateral and take a loan, but generally they're only going to give you a loan for 50% of the value of the Bitcoin, so you're not actually going to get its full value, and then you've got a loan that you need to pay back as well. So you have to make sure that you're using that money to buy an actual real asset which generates cash flow, something like property, like real estate, so that then you can get the loan paid back and actually get your Bitcoin back at the end of it, which may be worth even more by that time. So yeah, I gotta say, between the two, real estate and Bitcoin, they're both fantastic. Real estate for cash flow and for improving your life. Bitcoin, great because it's just the best capital growth asset that there's been for like forever, as far as I'm aware. Anyway, that is it for today. I hope you've enjoyed having a look at that disgusting room. Luckily, you're not the one that has to clean it now like me. That is it for this week, and I shall see you again in the next video, where we shall be talking about the bot and some recent changes to that. So do stay tuned. I may actually put that video out tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that one, and I shall see you then.